We live in a world where we want everything done fast. So much that almost every product introduced is meant to shorten the time that it takes to complete a task. If things don't happen fast enough for us, we think that life is stuck in buffering mode, and we may move on to other things, never sticking around to complete the download. And what was to come becomes what might have been. They say that one of our biggest opponents in life is time. So wanting things done fast comes naturally. But just because you get something done fast doesn't mean that you've conquered time, but rather found a way around it. But in the rush of getting things done, mistakes are often created, turning a victory into regret. But although time has no equal, it can be defeated. Not by speed, but by not letting it affect you. The only adversary to time is patience. And patience is a virtue. This story begins in a little town called Rome, Georgia. A town with a population of 37,746 people. Outside of being known for the world's largest campus, it isn't known for a lot. It's one of those small towns with a down-home feel. This town that wasn't known for a lot is now known for a tragedy that would occur in the year of 2020. A tragedy that would claim the lives of two women. March 18th, 1989, the world would make way for Truvenia Campbell, or who others know as Bean. She's described as a woman who was outgoing. She was unapologetically herself. She spoke her mind when she felt it and didn't care what other people thought. She was initially from Alabama, but later on in life would move to Rome, Georgia, when two families would become intertwined. And along with this situation, she would gain not only a sister, but a very close friend, a girl who went by the name of Vanita Richardson. Born on November 2nd of 2001, Vanita was someone that everyone explained is a good friend. Vanita, or who others knew as Vera, would also be an inhabitant of Rome, Georgia, where she would also receive her schooling there. In the year of 2020, Vanita Richardson would be 18 years old, and her sister, Truvenia Campbell, would be 30. Vanita would be attending Armurchie High School. By then, her sister Truvenia had already completed her studies at Georgia Highlands College. At this time, both of the sisters were described as outgoing, funny, playful, very cheerful people. No one around that town had anything bad to say about either one of them. May 12th, 2020. Truvenia Campbell and Vanita Richardson would attend a house party on this day. They would be attending a birthday party. This birthday party was being thrown for a guy who goes by the name of Desmond Brown. He was having this party at his home in Cave Spring to celebrate, and the girls were invited. So they go to this party. With Vanita being only 18 years old and still in high school, her mother was a bit hesitant about her going to this party. But it was okay because she was with her older sister Truvenia, who was 30 at the time, and if you're with someone that is kind of a chaperone, it seems okay. So on that night, Vanita Richardson would step into a 1997 gold Corolla with her sister, and they would head to this party. But before leaving, Vanita's mother would jokingly tell her, "You better make it back home tonight." And she watched her daughter drive off to have her fun. But then the morning of May 13th rolls around, and the mother wakes up and realizes that neither of them made it home that night. At first, it wasn't cause for panic. They did attend the party, and at this time they were both legal adults. So she does the normal thing in this situation. She begins to call around her friends and see if anyone knows where they are at. But no one does. In the midst of looking for the two girls, another situation would occur. At approximately 11 a.m., city workers would phone to the police. While doing routine maintenance work under the Etowah Bridge that day, they would make a startling discovery. A worker would come across the bodies of two young females and immediately contact the authorities. Rome, Georgia is a small town, and news spreads quickly about the discovery found under the bridge. So the family would get in contact with the authorities and relay the information that they had two missing siblings. And once a description is provided to the family about the victims, they're asked to come down to the station for identification purposes. The two bodies found under the bridge would in fact be identified as 18-year-old Vanita Vera Richardson and 30-year-old Truvenia Bean Campbell. With this newfound information that the girls were in fact the victims, it left the town on high alert, leaving them with questions. They were such good people that people had a hard time wrapping their head around the situation itself. No one could think about anyone who wanted to harm them. Once Truvenia and Vanita were identified, outside of that, the police didn't have much information. And with this being a small town with not that much homicides occurring, the police would call in the GBI for assistance. The GBI would begin with questioning family and friends, and shortly after speaking with family, they would quickly realize that Vanita's 1997 gold Corolla was missing. And at this point in time, the authorities believed that the car would hold the key to what truly happened. And pressed for information, the GBI would reach out to the media with a description of the missing vehicle in hopes that it would generate new leads.
If you would have a look at this picture, the GBI says one of the victims in a double murder drove a Toyota that looks similar to this one, and now they are looking for the car. The bodies of the two young women were found dumped off a bridge in Rome Wednesday. Channel 2's Justin Wolf on with us live on this. So Justin, you got new details on the case from the GBI.
We're a couple of days in, essentially working around the clock, developing and following up on different leads.
He says Richardson and the other victim, 30-year-old Clarice Truvenia Campbell, were in the car together on Tuesday night.
We have information in our investigation that vehicle could possibly be in the metro Atlanta area.
While searching for the vehicle, they would proceed with the interviews, which would eventually lead them to the partygoers who attended Desmond Brown's party. A tip from a fellow partygoer would eventually lead them to 36-year-old Devin Watts and 28-year-old Desmond Brown. The tip the GBI received did not directly implement them in a crime, but rather pointed them towards their direction because they thought they may have information in regards to what happened. So roughly 1 week after the discovery of the bodies, they would be hauled down to the station for questioning. The police would then begin the interrogation process and question them about what happened at the birthday party that night. At first, both of them were reluctant to answer questions, but even though they weren't talking, they weren't going anywhere. During the course of picking them up, police would discover illegal items in the vehicle that they were driving, and they would be held on unrelated charges. While they're sitting in jail, the police are constantly pulling them out for questioning, until one of them finally breaks. It isn't specified who caved in, but one of them would provide police with the location of the missing Toyota Corolla. The car would ultimately be found in the city of South Fulton, located in Georgia. But when the investigators arrive on the scene, the car had been set on fire. But although little evidence was able to be recovered from the car, one of the defendants had already gave the entire story up, even implicating another person, 23-year-old Christopher Pullen. The informant told exactly what happened on that evening. On May 12th of 2020, when Vanita Richardson and Truvenia Campbell attended this birthday party, they were there with their friends, dancing, partying, having a good time. But then it was getting late, so they decided to leave. Since the girls were the last ones to leave before he discovered this item missing, he automatically assumed that they must have taken it. So he then rounds up a couple of his friends and decides to go after them. The three men get into Desmond Brown's car and they lure the girls to an area. With them being acquaintances and attending the birthday party, at this moment in time, the girls didn't think anything was wrong. They were lured out in hopes of having more fun. But when they arrive to meet them, they're abducted and they're placed inside of Vanita's car. The three men then drive the girls around for a short period of time before confronting them about Desmond's missing wallet. The two girls then reply they don't know where his wallet's at and they have nothing to do with his missing property. But this only infuriates Desmond Brown. He then decides to place bags over both of the girls' heads and drive them around some more to try and shake them up. They then drive the girls shortly over the state line to a wooded area. When they get to this location, they're still in the car, and they question the girls once again. They even get physical, but the girls are still implying that they have nothing to do with his missing property. Desmond then removes the two girls from the car and searches them at gunpoint, and he still doesn't find his wallet. But even though he didn't find his property, he was still adamant that they were the ones who took it. At this point in time, now that they're not trapped in a car, Truvenia Campbell decides to fight back. This was undoubtedly her last attempt to try and protect her little sister. But during the struggle, Desmond Brown would shoot Truvenia Campbell 3 times, and then he would turn the gun on Vanita, and she would be shot twice. They then picked the girls' lifeless bodies up off the ground and placed them in the trunk. But they don't immediately get rid of them. They decide to drive around with their bodies in the trunk for hours. They even made a few stops. They would stop at the gas station to buy a cigar and a box of gloves. They then drove to an apartment complex located in Rome, Georgia, to sell synthetic marijuana. After they were done running these errands, they decided to get rid of the girls. Desmond Brown and Christopher Pullen then hop inside of Vanita's 1997 gold Corolla, and they drive it to the Etowah Bridge. While this is occurring, they are being trailed by a few men who are driving Desmond Brown's car. They then toss the girls over the bridge and then take Vanita's car to the city of South Fulton, where it was set on fire. They then all hopped in Desmond Brown's car and left the scene. This all occurred within hours of Vanita Richardson and Truvenia Campbell leaving Desmond's birthday party. They never intended Vanita and Truvenia to be found that quickly, but unbeknownst to them, the city workers were scheduled for maintenance on that bridge the next morning, and that's when they were found. After the men got rid of Vanita Richardson and Truvenia Campbell, that same morning, they decided to go out to eat. And while eating their food, Desmond Brown would receive a call from his mother. And in this phone call, she would detail that she found his wallet behind the TV, which means that he had just taken the life of 2 innocent girls for no reason. 28-year-old Desmond Brown, 36-year-old Devin Watts, and 23-year-old Christopher Pullen are all charged with malice murder and are awaiting trial. They say that one of our biggest opponents in life is time. So wanting things done fast comes naturally. But just because you get something done fast doesn't mean that you've conquered time, but rather found a way around it. But in the rush of getting things done, mistakes are often created, turning a victory into regret.
You took it like a champ, old gal.
But although time has no equal, it can be defeated. Not by speed, but by not letting it affect you.
And we're live. Just kidding. Put some respect on my name. Put some respect on my name. Y'all finished? Y'all done?
The only adversary to time is patience, and patience is a virtue. What happened to Truvenia and Vanita was truly despicable. It was a senseless act. To have their lives taken for property that they didn't even steal. This tragedy rocked that entire city to its foundation, and everyone there feels the loss. It left a void in everyone's life that can never be filled. Rest in peace, Truvenia Campbell and Vanita Richardson. Thank you for being a light for others.